Hi, everybody. Sometimes Connect can be a little finicky and challenging to use, and I think this will be particularly true when you try to do the last two problems in the Chapter 3 homework. So I thought I'd take a few minutes to show you how to input your answers into Connect. Here's problem number 8 in your Chapter 3 homework. Notice that it's a long problem with lots of transactions. Then, as we page down, there are a number of T accounts, and each T account has 4 columns. This is unusual because we're used to seeing only 2 columns in our T accounts, a debit and a credit column. Well, we still have debits on the left and credits on the right of this center vertical line. Debits on the left, credits on the right. You will use the 2 outside columns to indicate the transaction for which the debit or credit was posted. I'm going to demonstrate how to record the first 2 transactions to get you started on the right track. Transaction A. Vincent Sutton invested $90,000 in cash to start the business. As we post debits and credits, remember always, debits on the left, credits on the right. So for this first transaction, what accounts are involved? Cash and Vincent Sutton Capital. Let's complete the analysis of the cash account. Cash is an asset with a normal debit balance. The company received cash, so we need to increase the cash balance with a debit, and the amount is $90,000. So we need to debit cash for $90,000. Debits on the left. And be sure to use the drop-down box to indicate that this debit came from transaction A. Now let's complete the analysis of the capital account. Vincent Sutton Capital. Capital is an equity account with a normal credit balance. Before this business transaction, there was no balance in the capital account. Now we have $90,000 in capital. So we need to credit the capital account for $90,000 because like signs add, and use the drop-down box to indicate that this is transaction A. Now let's do transaction B. Paid $6,000 for the current month's rent. What 2 accounts are involved? Well, we paid cash, so cash is involved, and we paid for rent expense. So rent expense is involved. Let's complete the analysis of the cash account. Cash is an asset account with a normal debit balance. The company paid cash, so we need to decrease the balance in the cash account with a $6,000 credit because opposite signs subtract. Cash, credit, $6,000, and be sure to use the drop-down box to indicate that this is transaction B. Now let's complete the analysis of the rent expense account. Rent expense. Rent expense is an expense account with a normal debit balance. Before this business transaction, there was no rent expense recorded on the books. Now we have incurred rent expense, so we need to increase the rent expense account balance with a $6,000 debit because like signs add. Be sure to use the drop-down box to indicate that this debit comes from transaction B. And that's how easy it is to post these transactions to the T accounts. Notice that Connect automatically calculates the balance of each T account as you post the transactions. So post all transactions A through S into the T accounts, then answer the question under the Analyze tab, and once you're done with the entire problem, click on Check My Work and fix any errors you may find. It's important to have correct balances in the T accounts in problem number 8 because you will use those balances to prepare a trial balance and financial statements in problem number 9. This is problem 9 in your homework for chapter 3. Problem 9 can be a little confusing to students. Notice that the same transactions are listed in problem 9 as were listed in problem 8. You do not have to record the debits and credits again in problem number 9. What you need to do for problem 9 is to use the balances you posted in the T accounts that you completed in problem 8 to prepare a trial balance for the company in problem number 9. When you're in problem number 9, you won't be able to see the T accounts you prepared in problem 8. So I suggest that while your completed problem 8 is open, write down the account titles and debit or credit balances on a piece of scratch paper so you can easily prepare your trial balance in problem 9. Another option is to use the icon at the bottom of the problem to jump back and forth between problems 8 and 9 as you complete the trial balance in problem 9. I'm going to click on the icon. I want to take a look at problem 8. Here are my T accounts. You should have all of these totally complete with accurate balances. So I could take cash, and whatever the balance is after you post all the transactions in cash should be a debit balance, and then jump back to 9, and in your trial balance write down cash and whatever that debit balance is when you're finished with problem 8. After you've finished transferring account titles and debit or credit balances from the T accounts in problem 8, be sure your trial balance is in balance. The total of the debit column must equal the total of the credit problem. Then, using the numbers on your trial balance, prepare 3 financial statements: an income statement, a statement of owner's equity, and a balance sheet. Don't forget to answer the question under the Analyze tab in question 9. Once you have finished the entire problem, click on Check My Work and fix any errors. To help you with what you learned in Chapter 3, and to thoroughly prepare before struggling with the last 2 problems in the Chapter 3 homework, I have posted a Chapter 3 Connect practice problem. You can access the practice problem through the Canvas modules, page down until you see Chapter 3 Optional, and click on the Chapter 3 Practice problem. This will take you to a problem in Connect that you can use to practice until you feel you have mastered the skills necessary to succeed on the homework. Please note that while the practice problem is optional and not worth points, there are unlimited submissions, unlimited check my works, and immediate feedback and solutions. Accordingly, this practice problem is a great way to hone your Chapter 3 skills. Please don't hesitate to send me an email if you have any questions. See you next time.